Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, the JAMODI podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. That's what I was going to ask you is how often are you stopping in your scrimmages and in your play? So if it's, because obviously you want to teach throughout it. So take us through kind of what that looks like.
Well, if you've got a player that's rotating wrong, and to be honest, sometimes they're going to read stuff that, some of them just have it, and they can read, even though maybe they're supposed to rotate right, they rotate left and pick it off, or they read something different than I would read, and you have to let it go. At least I do. But if it's just continually wrong, or you've got a kid that's just not in the right spot, especially like on a press break, or they're not kicking it ahead like we think they should, we're going to stop it then and talk them through it, or try to talk them through it. But we rarely just stop practice. Now, we treat it like 4 quarters. So, at the end of the quarter, go grab some water real quick. Sometimes we throw the JV on to run a quarter, a short quarter at that, 4 minutes. And that's where the rest is. Sometimes they don't have but one sub per team. Sometimes we go best on best. Sometimes we go against the JV. We just try to give them a different look every time. But we don't stop it a whole lot.
Man, Coach, that's really good. I think how simple can practice become when here are a few things we want to work on for our scrimmage today. And then based on how the scrimmage goes, I would imagine that gives you a really good look at, okay, here's what we need to work on for tomorrow. Instead of, how often are we just guessing? We worked on this today, but we didn't really get to see them do it a lot. So maybe we do it again tomorrow. I think there's a lot of clarity in your coaching because of the way you run your scrimmaging.
Yes, and that's also how you figure out who can play and who can't.
Yeah.
Because some guys are very good drill players, and they're gonna, you put them on the gun and they're gonna make a bunch of shots, but all of a sudden they're sprinting down the floor and somebody's running at them. They can't make a shot to save their life. And I don't do it as much. It was a lot of work, I have to admit. But when I was at Kuntz, we statted every practice. It was cumulative. And for example, a turnover was a -1, a steal was a +1, a made shot's a +1, a missed shot's a -1. So it was a simple plus-minus system, and then we statted it up at the end, but we kept it cumulative, and that's how we literally got our starters. The top 5 guys started, so you could pass somebody up. So it was determined from practice, not from the games. And so I don't do it as much. To be honest, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
When you break it down a 4-quarter scrimmage at practice, you're looking at an hour and a half minimum. And plus, at Kuntz, my players, we were literally 8 to 10 deep. Whereas at East Chambers, we've had a lot of really good players, but we have not been as deep. We've been more like 7 deep. And so it's a little bit easier to figure out. But we went to state in 2016, and I felt like we had a player or two that was dogging it a little bit in practice. And it was what I started doing was cutting their time in the game a little bit. I had a rotation, but they figured it out. I didn't say a word to them. I started cutting their time. I wasn't putting them back where I used to put them back. And then I started statting practice, and I would post it. And it would have JV on there too. And one of those players was like at number 14. And I highlighted it. And he finally got the picture and started, he just wasn't flying around. I didn't think he was flying around like he should have been. And so you can kind of get their attention with that type of stuff.
So when you say statting it, are you just doing kind of a plus minus system like we would normally do for? Okay.
Absolutely. And the only thing that you could get a +2 or a +3, for example, a made 3 was a +2, but a missed 3 was a -1. So you were encouraged. Of course, if you can't make a 3, you better not shoot it because it's a minus. But if you took a charge, that's a +3. And we also threw some things in there later. We made a stat part. If you dove on the floor after a loose ball, that was a +3. The problem with that, you'll have them diving on the floor when they have no chance for the ball and think they're going to get a plus.
Plus it.
We had to monitor that a little bit better, but we still somewhat use that. I just don't do it in practice. And with Huddle now, Huddle breaks it down for you. So, oh my gosh, they made it so easy on us. You send it into Huddle and they have it broken down for you about 8 hours later. And so you can see who's producing and not. You're trying to put the producers on the floor.
I would imagine that makes two things. It makes practice very competitive because I think if you don't have a system like that, or players will tend to think that I'm locked into this spot. There's nothing I can do to make it better, my situation better, to get more time, but there's also nothing I can do to get worse or get less time. So I would imagine it makes it really competitive. And then two, the biggest struggle that we almost all have is with playing time and either parents or players, sometimes both, not understanding why and not being on the same page with us. This gives you, instead of just sitting across from a parent and saying, subjectively, I just don't think he's where the other guys are. It might be true, but that's hard for them to grasp. This gives you data. Like, listen, when we scrimmage, here's where your son lines up, on top of maybe some intangibles that I see that he could be better at too.
Yes, and to be honest, I haven't sat across from a parent in probably 20-something years, seriously. I know that's a problem.
Coach, that's rare.
Yeah, I've been around a long time, and been in Southeast Texas, so I'm not bragging. I do have a decent reputation. So, and right now at East Chambers, seriously, I'm coaching sons of guys I coached the first time I was at East Chambers.
They're not going to come talk to you. They know.
No. And our basic rule is this anyway. We tell them up front, don't bring a parent. If it's about playing time, I don't want to talk to your parent. You come talk. You're not on my door. I'll be glad to talk to you, and I'm going to be very blunt when I do. We're not going to lie to you, and this is the reason. But like when I was at Kuntz, and when I was at HJ for that matter, we would say the top 8 are going to play. You're guaranteed if you're in the top 8, and we would keep that posted so they knew right where they stood. And so I had at Kuntz, I did have a player or two come in one time, and Coach, what can I do for more time? I said, we're already on the list. Well, I'm number 11. Well, you're not going to get to play anymore. I'm like, who are you going to beat out? I would like name them. Who are you going to beat out? And they understand. And a lot of times it wasn't from lack of effort. It's just that player was better. And our job.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I think right now, players and parents, they sometimes confuse playing time with how much we care about their kid.
Absolutely.
And it's not the same.
It's funny because I've had 2 stories, one of them from HJ, one from Kuntz, where I had a kid come in that wanted more playing time. I told him it's not going to happen. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And I said, don't quit. This team's going to the state tournament. Nobody's going to know in 20 years whether you played or not. You got a medal just like everybody else. And you're an important part of this team for practice purposes. Those type kids give you a picture in practice. And not only that, when their attitude's right, they give you something on the sideline. They can talk to players, even though they're not getting to play. They can talk to players that are coming off the floor because you can see stuff on the sideline.
Playing so few guys over the years, which that's impressive with the fast tempo style like you have. Your guys must be more of like a Loyola Marymount, where the workouts are tough. Those dudes are in shape to play that style for even 32 minutes at only 7 or 8 guys. Have you had a lot of issues with players quitting or being disruptive negatively on the bench when they realize, man, I'm 9, 10, 11, 12 or beyond?
No, I have not had any problems. And, I've gotten, I've, I've mellowed in my age. And I'm told that by my ex players too. When I was younger, if you, I would whack you for whatever. I remember I whacked a guy my very first job, game 4. He was a starter and he wasn't playing hard. And I realized he was only going to play hard when it was easy. If we're going to beat somebody, oh, he's going to play hard. He's flying around, but we got to work. He wasn't, and I cleaned his locker out. And I pulled the scab off early, and I did that in my younger years. I don't do that as much now. I'm gonna talk him off the cliff, so to speak. But we don't have much of that. Seriously, they already know ahead of time. They've been through the system. They've watched us. At a small school, I'm watching them in the 7th and 8th grade. I already know who can and who can't, and they watch us. They know what is expected, and it's the same. They're running the same stuff that we are, and so it's not been a problem. And we do like for example this year, my point guard never came off, never. He could go 32 minutes pressing and
Wow.
running. We had 1 or 2 players that we never subbed them out. They would stay. And even when I was at Kuntz, we won state in 04. And my best 2 players were Keith and Hancock and Ashton Hall. And basically I had a rotation with 8 players, but Keithan and Ashton never came off until the game was underhand. And that's just the way it was. And they were in that type of shape where you did not have to sub them out. And, but, in the perfect world, you would have everybody where you can give them a couple minutes here and there.
Sure.
It's not always the perfect world, especially at a small school.
And our job isn't to make everybody happy. Our job is to help the team put them in a position where they can win on a Tuesday or Friday night. And then obviously there's way more to what we do than just winning. Because if it's just about that, then you don't care about the kid, you don't care about the relationships, and you probably, in my opinion, you don't have a 37-year career with 900 plus wins.
Yes, I've been very fortunate, and we do have a very good relationship with our kids. And to be honest, a lot of that is not just from me, but our assistant coaches are very good at it. But my wife is also. One of the things we do, especially since I've been at East Chambers, my wife cooks for all the home games, and we have food back there. It's not just for the kids, but it's for administrators and parents. Heck, whoever wants food. And first off, she's an unbelievable cook. Ask around town, and so we kind of get our culture by doing that and feeding the kids and taking care of them. They know we're going to take care of them, but we expect something in return, and that means you play your tail off and you act right, and you act right in the classroom, and you act right out in public. And so it's a give take with us.
You talked about the shape that your guys are in. Obviously, the scrimmaging, playing 4 quarters at the style of play that you run, I would imagine that gets them in shape. But are you having them also just run to get in that type of shape?
We don't ever line up at the end and run, if that's what you're asking,
or even throughout. But yeah,
if you see us get on the line and run, somebody screwed up, and not just screwed up; it's screwed up several times. We never run, horses or whatever you want to call them. Ours, even our shooting drill, even our layup drill. Our layup drill is full court layups. They have to make 70 layups with 4 balls going at the same time, full court, in 2 minutes. And if they don't make it, then there's push-ups and they go again. And they know that we're going to go until we make it. If it takes us 7 or 8 times, then that's just the way it is. And of course, I usually blow a gasket once that happens, because it throws practice off, because that's one of those things you should get through in 4 minutes, because we go, left-handed, then we go right-handed. So that's 2 minutes each. And, when they don't make it, it throws it off. And, you're in a bad mood there briefly.
Mm-hmm.
I used to get over it pretty quick, but everything is, like I said, full court, and there's a standard they have to meet.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.